WCNC Charlotte. This is Flashpoint.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. On Monday, Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and Union County students are just some of the thousands of families getting ready to return to the classroom. But as schools start the new year, there are some returning challenges. Teacher shortages and learning loss still plaguing districts nationwide. Coming up a little bit later, we'll speak with the president of the state's largest teacher organization on how they're tackling the issues. But first, joining us now is North Carolina State Superintendent Catherine Truitt. Superintendent, thanks for coming on Flashpoint. We appreciate it.
Hey, Ben, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
So in the last few weeks, I know you've reported some really encouraging gains when it comes to elementary literacy rates post-pandemic. Just the news we want to hear as we're headed back into school. Why do you think that is? What's working?
Well, you know, improving reading outcomes for students in our state has been a priority of mine since taking office in January of 2021. And we've worked alongside teachers, higher ed partners, and the legislature to put legislation that passed with bipartisan support. The governor signed it a week later in April of 2021 that would require our teachers to go back to a phonics-based approach to early literacy instruction. You know, in the 80s and 90s in this country, we moved away from phonics and looked at something called whole language. And as it turns out, that's not how the brain learns to read. So we've looked at a research-based approach. It's science-based, science of reading. And the state paid for all pre-K through fifth grade teachers, all 44,000 of them, to get this very hardcore, very lengthy training called letters. And that has really, that training is when we started seeing a big difference in our student data.
Switching gears now, teacher recruitment and retention. We know it's a big challenge. We talk about it here a lot in Charlotte, but I know it's also a problem at the statewide level. At your level, how big of a problem is this across the state?
Well, so we take vacancies very seriously, teacher vacancies, and we actually measure them formally every fall. Teacher vacancies look different in all 115 districts. Some districts aren't having trouble recruiting and retaining teachers, and others are. It's very geography related. But there's something else besides vacancies that we need to look at when we talk about teacher recruitment and retention, and that is we collect data that as per the law to track what teaching recruitment and retention looks like. And actually the teaching workforce has been very stable throughout the pandemic. Teachers are leaving the profession at a slower rate than they did a decade ago in North Carolina, which is really good news. Our teachers are hanging in there and sticking with the profession despite all of the obstacles. What we're really more concerned about, Ben, is that we don't have very many young people enrolling in our educator prep programs. So that's something that we want to continue to follow.
How big of this, because I realize this is a multifactorial issue, how big of this is teacher pay? I know some folks will say that we're 46th in beginner teacher pay. You might debate that, but how big of a problem do you think teacher pay is in that recruitment?
Well, when I look at studies about what Generation Z and before that millennials want from a career, there are lots of things in teaching that don't go along with what that wish list is for our young people. You know, they don't see themselves staying in a job for 20 years. They don't see themselves going to work every day in an office or in a classroom and being in the same place every day, 5 days a week. They want more of a work-life balance. They want more of a flexibility of scheduling, and you know, teaching doesn't offer that. And so we have to think about what this profession is going to look like over the next 20 years. I think pay has something to do with it, but I also think there's a lot of misconceptions about teacher pay. And surely I am hoping, along with all of our other teachers and parents, I'm sure, that this year's budget is going to make a big dent in that beginning teacher pay ranking.
I want to talk about the General Assembly because there are also, in addition to that budget that's looming, They've also pushed quite a bit of support for charter schools this session. I don't know you, but I assume this puts you in a slightly odd predicament because I know you are a Republican, but you're also the superintendent of public schools here in North Carolina. Where do you come down on this when, Republican colleagues in the General Assembly, promote these ideas, and where do you come down on the whole idea of funding students and not systems?
Well, I am, first of all, as an educator and a parent, regardless of political affiliation, I come down on students and their families. And I think that, let's be clear, charter schools are public schools. So I think what the General Assembly has done is offered to give more support in the form of opportunity scholarships or vouchers for families that may want to send their child to a private school because for whatever reason they feel that their neighborhood public school isn't meeting their child's needs. I'm okay with that, provided that there is accountability that comes with taking those state dollars. And that would mean that any school, public or private, that takes funding from the state needs to participate in some sort of nationally normed exam. If you're going to take money from the state, you need to be accountable. That may come. I don't know, and I don't know where this is going to shake out in the budget. We're all still waiting for the budget. But as a parent and as an educator, I believe 100% that the parent is the best person to decide what's right for their child because no one cares more about that child than that child's parent.
Something else we've talked about a lot here is this whole school calendar thing. And when is the right time that a school is supposed to start, and that there's not really an enforcement mechanism. It's supposed to be this one date, but other schools go earlier, and there's nothing you can really do about it. Where do you fall down on this? I mean, should there be one date that we all start on or not?
Absolutely not. I believe in calendar flexibility. I think that most North Carolinians do. I think most legislators do. But it is something that gets held up every year in legislation. Let me be clear about why I believe this. Having calendar flexibility for our districts is a very student-centered thing. There are many reasons why districts want to have calendar flexibility, and they all center around what's best for students. And it has to do with community college alignment, being aligned to those calendars because we have so many students in dual enrollment. Our early college, high school, having that calendar alignment, but it also has to do with when students take exams. Does not make sense to me as a teacher or a parent to have students come back from Christmas break and take exams later in January. But that said, I will never advocate that districts deliberately break the law. That this is a decision that all local school boards have to make for themselves. Are they going to break the law and do what they think is right? Or are they going to continue to uphold the law and let the chips fall where they may?
One of the big pushes you made is to change the way teachers are licensed. What's the argument for basing pay off something like performance, given that there are a lot of schools out there in underserved communities? How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, so the changes that we want to make with licensure really are not based on teacher performance in the form of test scores, and they're only based in part on teacher performance. The changes that we're proposing to make with licensure are that we tie teacher pay to license level, and that license level has to do with the extra responsibilities that teachers take on in leadership roles. For example, if I'm a teacher who is mentoring a beginning teacher, we know our beginning teachers leave at a rate faster than all other teachers. They need extra support. And so if I'm an experienced teacher who doesn't want to leave the classroom to go into administration in order to get a promotion and more pay, I could be part of a group of teachers who has a special license that can mentor young teachers while I still get to teach half the day. Or I could get even further promoted and do this at the district level and not just the school level. And to be honest, Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools are doing this already. It's just that not all of our districts have the resources to do this. And if we were to change this in legislation through the licensure policies and laws that we have, then all districts would be able to take advantage of this.
State Superintendent Catherine Truitt. Superintendent, thanks for coming on. We know it's a busy time for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, more Flashpoint after this.